personally, we didn't distance as a band because we knew if one of us got it, we're all so close, we're all gonna get it. So we just did.
We all lived together, so there really wasn't a whole lot. But the thing with, I guess, distancing is the shows became less frequent, so it was easier to spend that time that we would be playing these shows instead going and recording and writing stuff. So that definitely helped, I guess, the behind the scenes process.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't think
No. They threw caution to the wind, and yes, there were none.
I guess the only thing that was really there was the fact that we were in a giant mansion house for 2 weeks straight, and none of us left the property. But it wasn't because they were holding us hostage there for COVID purposes. It was just we were just so busy we didn't leave. So, but other than that, there weren't really any precautions taken.
And I think we all had COVID before we entered the studio, and that was before the Delta thing became a thing, and so we weren't necessarily worried at the time.
Yeah, to be honest, the break that we had when we weren't playing, you could use that time to work on your craft, which we all did to an extent, but at the same time, by not having shows, that's income that we're not getting. So we had to figure out other ways to make money as well to keep this band afloat. So some of that time we would have had to work on our craft, work on singing, drum and bass, and whatever. A lot of that time got ate into by just trying to pay the bills, and finding.
Some of our friends, they played at the Orange Peel in Asheville, and they had what would be the general standing area where everyone would crowd in. They had that changed where when groups came in, they had what they called pods. So if a group rode together, they would be in this one pod that was sectioned off. I think it even had the paneling, the plastic paneling, and so people who rode to the show together had to be separated into pods, and then a lot of the venues we played at wouldn't go to max capacity. Let's say there was a venue that could hold 500 people, they would start capping the shows at 200. And then a lot of other venues were doing last call and closing the bars and venues sooner than they normally would. So it was causing shows to start earlier and end earlier, which affected it in a way because a lot of people wait until later to go out to shows.
We attempted our hand at a few live stream performances, and while that was cool and different, it didn't yield the same result in any way, shape, or form. So it did affect us greatly. It felt like we weren't performing even when we were performing in that sense.
Having that break from being in front of people, and getting that rush of excitement, definitely, like he was saying with the live streams, it doesn't quite compare to actually playing in front of people. So having that break, even though we still had some sporadic shows every now and then, not playing as frequently. Yeah, when we got on the first tour, the first little short tour with Adelita's way back, it was definitely kind of reinvigorating to be back in front of people. And I can't speak for them, but I know me personally, it was almost like, okay, I got to relearn how to walk again, because being on stage and performing with your full body and everything, it's kind of one of those things, use it or lose it. If you don't do it for a while, it's not like riding a bike exactly. So yeah, it took a little while to get our sea legs back.
Just the people that have been following us since day one, they hated that we weren't out there doing what we love to do. And so I noticed a big rallying of our, main supporters. They were checking up on us very often, and any instance we were playing, whether it be a live stream or something where we could play live, those people really showed out and showed up. So
a lot of people that come to see us play and our fans recognize that when we weren't able to play, that was a big income of ours lost, because we try to do that full time. So whenever we tried our hand at doing a live stream, so that way people could still watch us even if it was from the comfort of their own home, we got more donations sent to us from our live stream, because when we were doing a live stream, we put our PayPal and our Venmo and everything displayed behind us, and a lot more people donated than we thought, because I think those people recognized that we had not been able to play and make an income, and they were supportive in that nature.
Mm-hmm. I feel like, in that respect, it made us, in a way, more connected to some of our existing fans that had, like they said, had seen us from the beginning, and it just kind of made it a little more personal with some of these people. I mean, like you said, people donated a lot more for the cause. We had people just randomly would bring us groceries or something. You know, it was like, it's kind of amazing, just really, I guess it showed how much our music and I guess what we do really helps people, I guess. And so I guess that was kind of cool to see some appreciation back every now and then. So that was much love to all those people. Yeah. No, we hate each other.
No, it made us bitter. No, but honestly, no, it made me, it's made me realize the resolve we all have. We all share, the same goals and passions, and I saw that with them. Even though we weren't doing the things we love to do, we still had that fire within us, and knowing that it would return and we would come back even stronger. And that's the way I felt, and I saw that in them as well. So it was, if anything, I think we, or at least for me, I gained even more respect for my brothers.
No, yeah, definitely what he said. I think we got very lucky finding each other as a band, and I think the chemistry is, unrivaled in a lot of ways. A lot of bands, when the pandemic came out, I mean, nothing against other bands, I'm glad we were able to tough it out, but a lot of bands they weren't able to, just by some reason, weren't able to stay afloat during the whole thing. And I think a lot of good bands saw their demise because of, the lack of playing shows and the lack, maybe not being able to adapt or, figure out how to wade these waters quick enough through no fault of their own. It's sad, it's a sad truth. But like he said, the fact that we're all able to come together and kind of overcome and just take this time to be constructive and get all our eggs in a row and work on some behind the scenes stuff. I think that helped us to prepare to come out on top whenever this stuff finally clears up. I think we have a springboard set up to launch us even further than we were.
In a way, it's nerve-wracking because I feel like it all get taken away from us. Because if you look at the new COVID cases coming out now, it's technically going higher and more rapid than it was when they shut all the venues down and stuff. So, but we're hoping now that there's a vaccine and that they're confident in that this won't get taken away from us, what we're doing again. But it feels great to be able to get out and play again, and as long as that isn't stopped, I think we're all happy.
With the downtime, I upgraded 90% of my personal drum gear. He was able to update his arsenal of amps. We had a new member join, and we had some excellent chemistry there, and we pretty much completely reinvigorated our set. And I don't think we would have done that in such an expedited way without that downtime. Mm-hmm. So it was helpful having that downtime to build up those things that were kind of at the side before.
The thing about, I guess, the kind of band we are, and being in like the rock genre, it's kind of like strange waters to wade. Now, I used that analogy earlier. I'm gonna use it again. Strange waters to wade, and because it's just rock's in kind of a weird spot right now. But either way, no matter what your genre is, if you're doing live music, the devil's in the details. And success is in the details as well. So every little thing really counts, and that's why he's been updating his gear, like just the show aesthetic. Having matching amps on stage. Making sure when you're recording these songs that you go, if you don't have a connection, you go spend the money to get them to sound right and get them to sound perfect. Because every little thing that you can polish, it really just multiplies the success you'll have if you can just get all those little tiny things down. So that's what we were able to do over this period.
Yeah, during the downtime, we realized when we finally come back and release the next song or the next music video, after all this time of everybody waiting, we don't want to come out and just release something that's just as good as what we ended with, And then, so we didn't spare any expenses. We went to the best studio we could find. We worked really hard on the songs. We got the best 4 songs together we could, and the next thing we release after all this is going to sound better. It's going to look better. It's going to be that next step up, and it's going to, during this downtime when we release the next music video, it's not going to be where it was. It's going to be better.
So if there's any advice for any other musicians or bands out there trying to figure out what to do during COVID, just buckle down and go through everything, go through your whole band, every little detail, and try to just make it as good as possible. Every little thing, no matter how small. Yeah. We are over the next couple months, we're trying to get some music videos together for these songs that we just recorded. And like Spencer said, we spared no expense. We went to the best studio we could find. Really worked hard on getting these songs produced well. And anyway, we have we have 4 songs total. We're trying to get some music videos for. The first one is going to be a song called Cyanide. That's all I can tell you right now. So just keep an eye out for the music video for Cyanide. You should expect it next few months, hopefully before 2022.
Okay.
Our band name is King's Ransom, and
with an E?
Yes, and our members consist of Porter, Dowdy, Trey Duncan here. He could have introduced himself before.
We call ourselves a rock and roll band. That means almost nothing anymore. I think hard rock's probably the best catch-all genre to get us. We're not heavy enough to be metal, we're not soft enough to be alternative rock. So we're inspired by classic rock bands like Guns N' Roses and Skid Row and those guys, but also I'm unapologetically Southern. That's not true, I don't act like that at all. But I do have a Southern accent. So when I sing, you sort of get that Southern feel, but we don't claim the Southern rock moniker. If you want to call us that, because you dig it, that's cool with me. But we say hard rock.
Mostly the venues that
Will have us.
most of the venues we play in, yeah, for real. Most of the venues we've been, it goes back and forth. Most of the venues we play in are bars, is what I'd call them, pretty much, just because like the focus is that it's a bar rather than just like a complete music venue. But we do play a good bit of music venues that also are bars, but they're first music venues. Like especially around town, like Radio Room and Got Rocks. Ground Zero. All of those places, in my opinion, would be music venues first, in terms of the legacy they have around town, and also like, just the way the place is set up. Like out of town's kind of the same thing. It's just a mixture of a whole bunch of different stuff wherever we can get on a stage, really.
We were struggling to keep our sanity.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, it's a miracle we got through it all, honestly. It just felt like there was a lot of tension introduced into the group that, you're always going to have bickering and struggles in a 5-piece band. Just everybody has different opinions, and that's productive because it forces you to grapple with new ideas and things that maybe you wouldn't have thought of, things you disagree with. And you kind of wrestle and put your heads together, and then you create this really cool new thing. And when the shutdowns happen, we really got out of rhythm. We just released an EP that we're really excited about. Just played a really cool show at Radio Room with Michelangelo Badio. We're pretty jacked about. And it just done pretty well at the first ever Upstate Music Awards. So we had a lot of momentum. We were super psyched. And then COVID hit, and it was like the rug was pulled out from underneath us. So we tried to rehearse just to stay tight, tried to work on original music, but there's also that lingering in the background of, what's even the point? Why are we doing this? We're a live rock band. I mean, we said earlier that we're a hard rock band. That's what we do. It's really about the engagement with the crowd. Energy. And was really tough when you didn't have any of that to look forward to and so much uncertainty in the world. So we said songwriting and rehearsing, but I don't know how much of that actually got done.
I think that like there's certain things that like struggles that are going to come with just being in a band in general that you're going to have to face over time. That like anything from something big to something small, you know, your van's going to break down. Everyone's going to deal with that. You know, there's, you know, you might have issues with a venue or something. Everyone's going to deal with that. But like nobody, this wasn't inevitable in a way. Like this was nothing. This like nobody was prepared for this. So when this hit, it wasn't even like we had thought about how to handle it. We were all just kind of like learning how to handle it as we went. And I mean, I think we did an okay job, but you know,
We're still here.
yeah, thankfully we're still alive. But so we guess we did something right. But nobody knew. I mean, nobody in any band knew how to handle the situation. So it was kind of rough at the beginning.
We did a couple live streams.
Mhm.
We did a show with Cliff Witherspoon at Red Arrow Studio out in Westminster, South Carolina. That was really cool and led to us creating a relationship with him so that a little bit later on during the pandemic, he came up with the idea to record some songs for free for local bands to try to spur the local music scene back up. And one of our singles that we've released on streaming platforms is a cover of Flirt and a Disaster by Molly Hatchet, and that was directly because of that relationship with Cliff from our live stream show. I'd also done just a solo show with Cliff. Same deal with the live stream, and probably of the band I had more experience with the live streams because I also do gig solo sometimes. So I played from, you know, my fiance's mother's living room to you know, if there was like just a cool setting outside, like by the pool, maybe just to make people feel a little different than just being cooped up in their house. And I did a live stream like that too, like a live stream outside in a neighborhood, just where people were literally standing outside their door, just listening to the music. So that's pretty much the best we could do as far as connecting with everybody and playing.
And that is so weird. Like live streams are so weird.
Yes.
Especially for a high energy rock band. That is so like it was a whole nother thing because like there's nobody there. And so and you obviously there's a few people there watching, but there's no crowd there. There is no like especially for me personally, like I like to feed off of crowds. Like if there's a good crowd, I'm just that much better on that night. And it was so tough. It was just like learning a new skill because not only did we do the Red Arrow live streams, but we also worked with
Hometown Hodges.
Yep. And played at a lot of really cool venues with them, or a couple really cool venues with them, doing live streams in some auditoriums and stuff. And that was a lot of fun, but it's still just, it's so awkward at first. And it honestly became like second nature to me because we had done it so many times and just got so used to not being in front of a crowd. I mean, it was honestly a good thing because...
Yeah, because you need to develop that skill to be able to play regardless of who's in front of you.
Yeah.
And like Porter had mentioned, that's something we struggled with early on. Like if the crowd's not into it, how do we still put on a good show? And you got to be able to do that. So I think it was helpful in that sense. The Hometown Hodges guys were really cool though, because they did festival audio and lighting, and that was how they pivoted during COVID. Was we'll use all our gear we've got, and we'll rent out like the Greenwood Community Theater or the Abbeville Opera House, and we'll put on a show and try to give these bands an outlet that haven't had the opportunity to do that. And
that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, good guys, and we used some of that video in our first DIY music video.
Yeah, it was fun. It was great.
Yeah.
It was a good thing. And all the mess, it was a good thing.
Yep.
Did COVID affect your ability to play live shows? Did it make things different from when you were doing like live streams to going back on the stage in front of hundreds of people?
I mean, it was weird, but it wasn't. I was so ready, it didn't really matter. I mean, when we started, it definitely was kind of a long time coming. It kind of was a gradual fade into full crowds again. You know, like you started out playing like to really small crowds because of capacity rules and stuff like that. And there's still a lot of that going on now. So, you know, we still, you know, have to face some of that. But I think like it was a little weird, but not enough for it to affect me personally, and I don't really think it affected many of us. I think we were all just kind of in like a survival mentality, like whatever we needed to do to keep going, whether that was play a live stream or play live, as you know, as many like variables that are involved with each of those things. Like it was just about doing what you had to do to make, to be a business, basically. I mean, like to be a band. So, yeah.
And I really felt like we were picking up steam when COVID hit. And so we were, a little over a year old at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was kind of like we just hit reset. When you just start out, you're playing to nobody in a venue. And then we finally have a little following, and then everything goes back to square zero. It's like, oh, we're playing to nobody again. Only this time it's like people want to hear us, but it's just not safe.
It did make the crowds that much better when it came back.
Yeah, that's something else I was thinking
Yeah.
about. People were jacked.
Yeah, we play in front of some great crowds now. So,
I feel like there was a lot of desire to write. I don't know that we executed very well. I think that's just us as a band in general. We're still trying to figure out how to write as a 5-piece, but I think it's fair to say I'm the primary songwriter. And so for me, much didn't change because I'll sit in my room and write anyways. And then when I get something good, I'll try to bring it to the guys and we'll try to flesh it out. Or like Porter or Leo will have a riff, and then I try to put lyrics over top of it, and finally we jam on it as a band. There was a handful of times where we specifically sat around and said, all right, let's try to write something. But I think a lot of that process it's very mental, and so your emotions at that moment will bleed into the songwriting. I think everybody was just so fatigued from the pandemic that it was just like you're pulling cinder blocks behind you, trying to get everybody's energy going. So it was really tough to write as a group, just because everybody was in a funk.
no, there was no thoughts of disbanding.
Out loud. I'm just kidding.
No. Everybody.
Shouldn't joke about that.
I will say, as much as we struggled to write, I mean, we definitely, we can look back and say a lot about how we feel like we could have been more productive in this regard or that regard, or, but I try to give us a break in like knowing that we made it through, and I don't know, like there was never a moment where we were at the point where it was like, and obviously you're gonna have your disagreements as a band and stuff like that, but it was never like, I feel like anything that had to do with COVID or anything like that. I don't think that COVID in any way, shape, or form made us like feel like we wanted to quit. But all the members of this band are very hungry for, and very passionate and very driven. And like I said before, I think it was all about just finding a way to survive. And
I seem to remember one incident in particular where we were down here trying to write, and again, just having a bad day, but having a disagreement. But Matt really spoke. It was like, guys, I mean, yeah, we feel awful and we're frustrated with what's going on, but we just got to get through this. And so I think he in particular was a strong voice of, we just got to get through this period and it's going to be okay. And he echoed what we all felt inside. And at the end of the day, it was about, us being tight and staying together, that regardless of what happens, everything's in flux. So we were going to be okay.
it was Tribbles, right?
Yeah.
We played.
Is it Tribbles in Piedmont, South Carolina?
Yeah, we played Tribbles. We played outside an acoustic set, and I'm not gonna lie, it was a fun show. There was a good crowd there. They were loving it.
This is my favorite moment. I hope nobody gets in trouble for this. He specifically asked us to play it because he thought, like, people like you guys, but you're not gonna bring that many people. And we played that show, and it was, I'm not gonna say packed, like we were still safe, but a lot more people than he planned on being there. And he was
we almost got,
he was sweating.
It's like if somebody drives by right now, we're gonna be in trouble.
That's right, we're all going to jail.
It wasn't that bad. We were outside. It wasn't like everybody was on.
Just a lot more than he expected.
Yeah.
And so we were like, that's a victory,
Yeah. So it was fun though. Acoustic sets, not normally.
That's not our thing.
Not our thing at all. We've done them. We've done them on a lot of scales, but that show honestly was probably one of my favorite acoustic gigs, except for maybe.
It was fun. I think most venues we've experienced, they're just excited to get shows back.
I think there's a lot of pressure on venues, just in a lot of different ways. I mean, you got to think they're struggling. They just came out of a situation where they were struggling to make money. Now, they need to stay alive. They need to be successful, just like anybody else does. But, it's about how far can they go? How far should they go? What's safe? What's not safe? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of pressure on venue owners and venues in general right now. And, at the music scene in general, I think kind of got overlooked when COVID hit. And not to say that, the people who, like the people who did get noticed for being out of work and stuff did matter, 100% mattered. But I don't think anybody really looked at the music scene and was like, oh, well, these musicians are out of work or anything, except for people in our circle. And I think that, even the people that did see that, like the people who did see the musicians were out of work, still overlooked the fact that the real people I feel like were hurting the most were the venue owners and the venues themselves.
Literally going to the next city and selling your merchandise is how you're making your living. You shut all that down, and those people are just hosed.
Mm-hmm. Like a lot of venue owners, I think, are still to this day under a lot of stress, but especially then, I think it was a combination of them, just like with every other musicians wanting to get back in because they were in that situation and everything like that. Like, everyone wanted to get back, but everybody was also very hesitant to get back. And so it's a constant balance of just like, now it's a little bit different. I think we took advantage of everything we possibly could during COVID to find a way to move forward. So it wasn't like we paused between like shutdown and when COVID started to let up a little bit. Like we found a way to progress in the middle of that. And I think that so, the crowd sizes and the type, really it's about the type of crowd. You can play in front of 300 people and all of them kind of just be like, if you play in front of 100 people that are really into you, and the crowd size has been great, the energy's been phenomenal, but I really feel like, it might be because people are trying to get back out and they're just excited to get back out. But I think one of the biggest things that is a testament to King's Ransom is just the fact that we found a way to progress through time where we really didn't have a lot of options or ways to progress. So, yeah, I mean, you really had to wing it.
I mean, we talked about writing a little bit, and maybe we felt like we struggled during that time, but the truth is that our best stuff is what we're working on now and what we're putting out now. So obviously we were moving forward, and doing well. Despite our frustrations at ourselves, the quality of the product was progressing. We're using very capitalistic term, quality of the product and its
quality of the product. Yes. Yeah.
That's what our band is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even we have original stuff that's not recorded yet. It's never really been about the studio version. It's about how do we make the studio version as exciting as what happens live.
It's all about what happens live. Yeah. And, almost to a fault, honestly, but it's really we put a lot of effort into our studio version of our songs, 100%. But when it comes to
you think King's Ransom, you think of, man, that's a show. You're in it. It's the screaming guitars. It's in your face, and that's what you want to be part of.
I'm seriously gonna go deaf though. I'm not even kidding. I'm losing my hearing right now as we speak. I'm sorry, guys. Let's wrap it back in. All right, come on. We're already running.
Hair flip. Get in the zone.
Give me a second. All right, I'm ready. Seriously, I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. Did COVID make your band stronger or weaker?
Stronger. I mean, you could say
undisclosed ways.
Yeah, I mean,
confidential.
You could say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, but that's kind of it's true, and that's kind of the general statement. I mean, if you like I said, earlier, when COVID hit, nobody really knew how to deal with this situation, but no one's gonna hurt from knowing how to deal with it now. And the people who did learn how to deal with it and made it through were just that they can add that to their arsenal of weapons to fight against whatever adversity that comes there. There's gonna be so many things that come up as a band, as a band progresses, and and that's not to talk down the people who didn't make it through COVID. I mean, I completely understand that, but I also just think that the amount of stuff, just the tension, the constant, I won't say fear, but just kind of the, honestly, yeah, just the fear in the air of everywhere, and just the worry and the uncertainty, and just everything. It was just a weird feeling all the time, everywhere you went. That has to make a band stronger. Mm-hmm. And and if we ever have to deal with anything like that again, we'll be prepared.
Yeah, because nothing could be as bad as that.
We don't think.
Well, I think just kind of in general, tragedy is paradoxical.
Yeah.
Right, that it's like, oh my gosh, this horrible thing, but also, if you do make it through on the other side, you're gonna, it has that ability to bring people together.
That's what I love you, man. He's right.
See, he wouldn't have done that a year ago. He was afraid to touch me.
Yeah, exactly. Literally just me, Davis, and Leah were in the car, just driving to Guitar Center. And somebody said the word ransom, and we were looking for a band name. And I was like, that's a really cool name. We should just name the band Ransom. And Davis has a little cousin named Ransom. Well, she's not little anymore, but he has a cousin named Ransom. And she spells her name Ransom with an E on the end of it. And I was like, we could spell it like Ransom spells her name, because that's pretty unique. Ransom, normally, it's just Ransom with no E on the end of it.
You don't say.
And we brought it to Trey and Matt, and in like very typical fashion, Trey and Matt thought that it needed some work. So
Well, I remember that Matt's father, Dwayne Malford,
Yeah.
has been awesome as far
shout
as...
out Dwayne, seriously.
That's right.
He's
Dwayne has done so much for us. But Dwayne said something like, I need something. And he said, what are you guys worth?
Yeah, what are you worth?
A king's ransom. And we said, okay, Dwayne, yeah.
That's a good one. Yep.
And
So we
that's-
came up with King's Ransom.
That's right.
And that's kind
Spelled
of
it the hardest way possible so that nobody can find us online.
But
we're there.
If anyone sees this, if you look up King's Ransom, please put the E on the end of ransom. I think it's really just about who comes.
That's what I was gonna say. It's the people. I mean,
It's all the show. It's like, it's literally, it's just the show. It's the community and just the people. You have a lot of, like, we definitely made some very, very strong. I mean, I can think of like 5 or 6 people right now who will come see us every time we play around here, who we made those fans during COVID. They supported us through it. And, it's really just about the show. Like, they support us by coming to see us. And obviously they listen to our music and stuff like that. But, most of, like a lot of the numbers we have online for listening to music, they're not even people around, like, here, really. It's like out of town. So, like, really the people here that are, they come to support us when they come see us live. And if, like, anyone, like, it's a special thing, I think. Just any type of local, show where there's a community of people, especially a consistent community of people that's always growing. That's a very connected activity. And
we need nothing else right now besides connectivity and just being human with other people and realizing that we're all in this together.
The Ready Room has been open about 10 years. We've been at our new location a little over 4. We moved in summer of 2017. It was pretty crazy because we kept the old location open. At the same time, we were renovating here, and we didn't miss a day and probably drove ourselves insane in the process. I mean, the biggest thing is not knowing if you're doing the right thing. Like, because there's, like, I kind of told everybody, like, bear with us, it's our first pandemic. Like, when you open a venue, there's no handbook for it. And if there sure wasn't this in there. So it's like, hey, we're making it up as we go along. And I think everybody else is, unless they know something they haven't told us. But, like, so I'm just trying to be like, hey, I don't know anything. I've been trying to tell everybody, like, I'm just trying to listen and trying to, like, hear the conversation going on. I'm not saying that I'm right, you're wrong, or whatever, but, we stay closed 3 weeks longer than we were supposed to when the state closes down, because we wanted to, like, see what was happening and make sure, like, so what are they doing over here? What are they doing over here? And just little bit by little bit. And then, we're always super conscientious of the COVID levels. So, like, every time it started getting spiking or whatever, we were like, maybe it's time to stop shows again. And there's a lot of bands I know that, like, we canceled a few band shows over and over, and I felt super bad, but it's just, we have everybody's safety in mind first and foremost. And yeah, it was just kind of a weird situation. Definitely that push, pull, start, stop. Like, oh God, it's such a blur. I do not, man. Like, so we do, like, 2019, I counted, we did 257 shows. And so, I mean, we average over 200 shows a year. So it just, honestly, I don't remember what we had last week. I know it's coming up this weekend, and then it leaves my mind. We sell 250. Yeah, so whenever things reopened, we did do some half capacity. We enforced face mask, all that kind of stuff, which no one really wanted to do. But we toyed with it, and it's hard because it was just bands need to sell tickets and that kind of thing. That was very interesting. And also, I think our governor's a little bit different than some governors, and more of the red state stuff is a little bit different. So, yeah, I don't know. It was. I was very glad to be back at full capacity, but we also got really good at putting people in a room, and then you're like, shit, is putting people in the room the right thing to do? We're doing a lot of renovations right now, but the thing is, whenever we stopped, no one knew how long the pandemic was going to last. No one knew that, like, next month we'll be back, or next 2 months. It was basically how do we pay our staff, how we pay ourselves, keep the roof open, negotiate with the landlord. Like, yeah, definitely not. There's more of a keep the ship from sinking kind of thing instead of renovating, which we had a lot of like regulars and customers like, you know, come in and get takeout food from us, or like pre-order T-shirts, and that was really helpful. But now that the Saver Stages grant has come through the SVOG, we actually are starting to do some renovations and stuff like that. We actually put some new lights in. We're working on the back patio today. But yeah. So right now, we're not doing anything really differently. We do have some shows that are like proof of vaccination or negative test. But as far as like the service thing, I mean, to be completely transparent, we're in a red state. We have a Republican governor, same as Texas and Florida. They don't give a fuck. Like, so it's kind of hard giving a fuck whenever no one else does, when you're the only person wearing a face mask when you go somewhere. And so, I don't know, it's one of those things. I feel way differently about the pandemic as a person than I do as a business owner. As a business owner, you got to make sure everybody still has jobs, got to make sure that you look after yours, and the rent is paid, and my partners have roofs over their heads, as well as myself. I'm a little bit more cautious. You see me at a show, usually I'm not out in the crowd very much. Usually I'm in my office with a face mask here. So, I mean, you can tell people how to live their lives. They don't want to listen to you. But, you know, we just try to do the best we can. So when we reopened, for a while we were just like takeout food and bar, couldn't even do bar service or anything. So that was a big, weird scenario. And like I said, we had some people come in there that tipped really well and helped our staff out. I ran takeout a few times myself. And but right now everything's pretty much the same. But I think we do have a little bit more confidence now overall. Like, we know that we've gotten through that for the most part. It's like, cool, if we did that, we can do anything kind of thing. So we're definitely trying to like find that new normal that everybody else keeps on talking about, and also like we can start improving things here now that we know that like the sky isn't falling all the time. Like, it's like, okay, cool, the Saver Stages grant came in, and it's like, okay, cool, we can do the repairs out there, we can fix up some lighting stuff, whatever. But that's been the big thing. We haven't, I mean, we're a small venue, so I mean, we're not, you know, the Orange Pill or Live Nation or AAG place. There's been certain bands that have been way more cautious when they came here. Like, I had a band that came here 3 weeks ago, and they were prefaced with me, like, hey, this is what we're going to do. And even at their merch table, they asked for all my staff, because basically they weren't planning on interacting with the audience. They actually put road cases between them, like a barricade a little bit. And what they did was they just asked my staff, since the only people they were interacting with were my staff, they just asked everybody to wear a face mask because they were starting their tour here, first one in 2 years. And they're like, we're just trying to get to the next tour date kind of thing. But they put a sign on their merch table, and they were like, hey, we're not hugs and hanging out as much as we usually do next time, that kind of thing. But yeah, just being cautious. I mean, so everything's changing all the time. I mean, this past summer was crazy busy. Then you had the Delta variant came out, and then numbers spiked again. But the cool thing I saw this past summer was that how all these local bands just kind of pulled together and just packing out the room. I probably had 4 or 5 sold out shows this summer with all local bands, just crushing it. CD Release show. I'm gonna hop on your show, and I'm gonna hop on your show. Greenville News actually did an article about it. It was really cool, and there's just a lot of really interconnectivity on that. So that was really cool. Does that kind of answer the question? I mean, it really depends on the bill and the genre. If I have a national headliner come in, they usually have one opening act, that kind of thing. Local bands will do 3 or 4. Metal bills are completely wild cards. They'll be like, we want to do 6 bands. I'm like, that's a lot of bands, that's a lot of gear. So it's all circumstantial depending on that. But I mean, the cool thing I've seen is that some of the genre barriers are starting to get broken down a little bit more. And I think that's happening everywhere. But it's definitely just like, hey, my dude does hip hop and I do rock. Let's do a show together. Cool. You know, I feel like there's definitely a sense of community. There's definitely, I don't know if it's due to the pandemic or not. I think there's just, from my personal viewpoint, I think Greenville is just kind of congealing a little bit more. I think there's more of a cohesiveness, more of a. So I also do a thing called the Upstate Music Awards. I'm not sure if you guys know about that. And the cool thing about that is I feel like we have people like a band called Quality Time. They're now doing stuff for Low Indigo, and they were all nominees last year and met. And they met there. Now they're doing stuff together. So I think, I'm not trying to take credit for anything, or my people take credit for anything, but I think that's maybe one step in the right direction, and now it's up to everybody else to start taking other steps, kind of thing. We're a weird venue to book because we're not that big of a venue. So, but my calendar always gets nationals and agents hitting me up, or I either have like local bands that really draw, and we have a hard time getting like regionals. Then that's one of my weird things. Like, we're from Asheville, Atlanta, Charlotte. We want to play your room on a weekend. I probably don't have it. But as far as like the booking process, I feel like there's definitely people having more conversations with other artists in different genres, and that makes it easy for me. Like, hey, I'd love to have you. Pitch me a bill. Make it a win. You know, make it hard for me to say no. That's the way I kind of like phrase it like that. Like, yeah, I want to book that. That sounds awesome. I have a website, radiormgreenville.com. I update it once or twice a week, and all the booking stuff is there for me. I kind of live in the inbox just because between like text, Facebook, Instagram, and email and all that, is got to keep everything under one roof. I was like, I know people think I'm probably like a little bit like, oh, he's blowing me off. No, I'm just scattered. I need to make it easy for myself.
Shane Nelson. I own ASAF Records, a recording studio in Greenville. So I started like doing recording in high school just because there was a need in the church I was in, and so they bought a bunch of gear for me to try, and started doing it in 10th grade, and then started making money doing it professionally. I think I was like a sophomore in college. Don't know how old I would have been. Probably maybe 20, 21, something like that. And then doing it full time 2 weeks before the shutdown in March. So literally quit my job, and my 2-week notice was up 2 weeks before everything shut down. Probably it probably helped a lot because I feel like a lot of people were just trapped at home, and so they had with like the stimulus and all that stuff that was happening, they had some extra money maybe, and it was like, oh, I want something to do. I'm gonna go record some songs. So I think it may have helped. I haven't had to get another job, so I mean that is good. So I think it helped a little bit. Anyone who wants to come and record, they can come and record. Like last night I did a gospel vocal session, like out when you guys walked in, like out there's like 3 mics set up because it was 3 singers singing different parts. And then I did a heavy metal session a couple weeks ago, and then this one band booked me for like a month to do like old school Metallica sounding 80s hair metal. And then like New Spring Church booked me for a month to do worship music for a month. So it's just any and everything. I did end up buying some more gear because I just wanted it. I'm also a drummer, and so I spent a lot more money on drums than anything during the shutdown. I feel like I have enough recording gear. Like I may have bought like a microphone, one microphone, but I'm pretty sure I bought like 5 snare drums and a whole set of cymbals during COVID because um, I say during COVID, but I feel like we're still going through it. So, but the thing is now my drumming gigs are starting to come back, and so I have that income coming as well. So I feel like I'm back up to like a normal salary, if you can call it what a musician makes a salary. And so all the gigs are starting to come back and come back like with the vengeance. Like I'm gone every weekend in a different state or in a different part of the country or something. So yes, I feel like I did buy some more, upgrade some stuff to be able to keep doing it. My ears. I believe that I can do anything music-wise with any piece of gear. I don't think it matters what you have. Like all of this stuff is really nice, and it allows me to do things quicker. But I started on a Focusrite 2i2 with I think I had a 57 and like a Behringer C2, which is the step below their worst microphone, and made some really bad sounding recordings with that, and then learned the strengths and weaknesses of those two microphones and of the preamps, and just figured out how to do it. I would say if anyone thinks, actually just had this conversation with a guy last night who was here with this vocal tracking session. He was like, "What kind of plugins do you like?" And I was like, "Oh man, like whatever works. Like I got some that I like, but like doesn't matter." And he was like, "Well, what should I buy?" And I was like, "Is your room treated?" And he was like, "No." And I was like, "You should get your room treated instead of buying plugins." And he was like, "Oh, why?" And I just went down this rabbit hole of like, well, your ears are the most important thing that you have, so you should be like, you should have a subscription to Pure Mix or to like Mix with the Masters or Nail the Mix or any of these like tutorial websites. I would say YouTube is great, but like if you pay for it and you're actually watching the record producers produce and mix the records, that's very valuable because anyone can start a YouTube channel. But get like an education in music. Get in a studio. I went and worked with Jay, who actually went to Anderson at Greenbrier Studio, and I interned with him for a year. And he's now like a colleague of mine, but we're really good friends. I went and had lunch and like started working with Studio 101 and like just sat underneath them and learned what they do. And now Brad at 101 calls me to fill in sessions for him when he can't make it at his studio. But because I helped him there, I know how everything works in his studio. So all that to say, train your ears and treat your room. So if you wanted a materialistic answer to the most important thing I own, it's the panels on the walls and the treatment in the room. Because your ears can be great, and you need to have great ears, but if you can't accurately hear what's coming out of the speakers, then you're kind of screwed. Don't accept any record deal ever for any reason because it's slavery. Just look up some bands that's gotten screwed over by record deals. Some of the greatest albums that ever, in my opinion, have come out of a big middle finger to the record companies. I would say there's a lot of things that go into that. I would say work with somebody that you know and you like their style of. Everyone has a sound. Work with people who you like their sound. But more than that, like get to know them and become friends with them. Because if you think about it, at the minimum, you're going to spend 8 hours with them. Probably the minimum. Realistically, you're going to spend weeks and weeks with them, months, maybe years. So you don't want to spend time with someone that you don't like because it's not fun. And I think music suffers when like the energy in the room is off. So like I try to make things here like really fun, not stressful. Like here's a funny example. I work with this band called the 24th Hour. And they had come to me and they'd never been in a recording studio before, never stepped in a studio, and they're all pretty nervous. Like So I wanted to make it a spot where it's like, dude, this is digital. Like, we've got as many takes as we need. We're not tracking to tape, so like you don't have to be perfect all the time. We have the like ability to try stuff out, figure some stuff out. And the last thing that I would say to answer your question is to just practice and practice and practice. If you know you're a band and you know we're going to the studio, it's October the 27th. We're going to the studio November the 14th. We're going to meet every day for 3 hours a day and play this one song that we're going to record. That just kind of plays into like all of my beliefs. I don't know, there's just something about it whenever like you've played a song. I play drums, so I automatically do this. You've played a song 100 times, and then it's like, okay, I can play the song in my sleep. What can I add to it to make it like, what can I do differently that like would make it better? Or like you have the ability to just kind of let those spontaneous things happen. And if you work with me, I'm gonna be like, let me get like 3 or 4 solid takes, and then let's do one that I call the shits and giggles take. And I mean in the sense of, let's do one, I'm gonna cut the lights out and let the room be pitch black, you can't see anything, and y'all are gonna do the song again and just do it differently. I don't care what you do, just do something differently. Probably won't use it, but there's some kind of magic in that that happens. So prepare, really get to know whoever, engineer, producer, whatever you're going to work with. And I would say it probably wouldn't hurt to get yourself a little recording rig, because you can kind of get out of your own head about recording if you do it with your buddies. And typically a band's going to be, or an artist, whatever, they're going to have buddies, and you can hear yourself and hear the flaws that you have, because you come in here, a microphone is literally just a microscope that's going to get put on you and like point out all your flaws. I'm going to like zoom in really far to this grid and see how close the drummer is on the grid. This guy wasn't super close on the grid. But like, see how close you are, and then I have to fix that. But if you're like super tight to the grid because you've been tracking and you know kind of how to move around a click and do all this stuff, it saves time. And ultimately, you're paying me by the day, and you want to get as much as you can do in one day. I'm always going to be about the music. Whatever means we have to get to a good song, let's get there. And I think one of the things that happened through COVID is artists can write about anything, or it's not even music related. It's just like artists can paint about anything and like all this stuff. But I think like through COVID, there was a lot of really bad stuff that happened. Like even now, the political spectrum is insane. A global pandemic, just the economy, people's families dying, like relationships getting broken up, and like all this stuff during COVID, which happens normally, but I feel like it kind of like rose during COVID. All that to say, through, you heard the statement, tried in the fire but coming out gold. Just basically means that like some bad stuff has to happen. I think some people were like under intense pressure during COVID, and these artists, a lot of bands, a lot of artists wrote songs like from a very real and raw place, and they're very, very good songs. And so I think a lot of really good songs, specifically in music, I think a lot of really good songs came out of COVID, because I feel like before COVID, I did studio stuff part-time, and I mean, I got a couple good songs, but like some of them I was just like, ugh, like they weren't paying me to do this, I wouldn't want to do it. But I feel like I haven't had one of those recently. But anyway, I feel like during COVID, I haven't had one of those recently. It's just been like a bunch of pretty good songs, like some good stuff. Like I'm not just saying that because like my name's on it. I'm saying it because like it's stuff that I genuinely listen to now. So yeah, the music, it's come from a real place. I think it may have forced a bunch of artists to like write from a real place that they may have never written from before. So anyone can write a breakup song. But at the end of the day, I really do, honestly, people have asked me, why don't you just move to Nashville? And that's a very valid question. the reason is I don't want to. I don't like Nashville. I don't. I mean, I like to go there. I like to hang out. I got friends that live there. I got friends that own studios up there. But I don't know. I truly, in my heart, I believe that Greenville is the next music city. I just think there's too many like really great artists and really, really great musicians that are in Greenville that are on tours and like putting out all this really, really good music. And I want to be a part of what's happening in Greenville on the ground floor. This really big studio in Nashville called Blackbird Studio. It's owned by John McBride, who is, if you like country music, it's Martina McBride's husband. It is one of the most prolific studios in the world. It is the most famous studio probably on the East Coast. So Blackbird Studios, he pretty much has been there forever. He's been there for a long time, and so it's like he's the grandfather studio of Nashville, and I want my studio to be that. So I chose Greenville, not only because I live here, I have it tattooed on my arm, but just because I love what's happening, and I didn't get into the music industry for money or for fame, because I don't have either. I got in the music industry to make art, and I just happen to be able to pay my bills and take care of my wife because of it. So, it's my closing argument. He said, number one, this one guy was like, there's just something special about Greenville and about Nashville. It's changing. It's like something's changing in Nashville. And I've witnessed it. I've been there. It's no longer about music. It's now about like, how can we get as famous as possible? How can we win as many country music awards? How can we win as many Grammys? How can we go on as many tours? How can we just get famous? And how can we make money ultimately? Because, scripture says that money is the root of all evil. And so there's like a bunch of greed, a bunch of crap that's happening in Nashville. And I personally feel like I like country music. I hate country music that's coming out of Nashville right now. There's like a handful of artists that I like. And then even those artists, I like don't like their personalities. And I don't know them, so all I can go by is like their personas that they put out there, and I do not like those. So it forces me to like almost not like their music because of who they are. And I think just like everyone is so political and always has an opinion on everything. And I just feel like you shouldn't need to share your opinion on everything. I feel like the atmosphere has changed in Nashville. It's no longer about good music. It's about really bad people trying to make money. And that's a huge overgeneralization. I don't think everyone in Nashville is a bad person. I actually know a bunch of really great people in Nashville. But I do think like the record labels and like the real big higher up people may not have music as the forefront of their minds while they're making music. And I think that because of that, the music has suffered. And at the end of the day, I want to drive home and listen to good music. I don't care how it gets there. That's what I want to do. And so I've based my studio on that. I don't believe that it takes hundreds of thousands of dollars to make a record. I set my rates accordingly. I set the atmosphere accordingly. The whole point of the studio is for you to come here and rest and know that your music is going to be great and come out great, but also like be the best musician you can be. And so ultimately that's my job, is to cultivate that atmosphere, get the best performance out of every musician, but also have them leave feeling like filled up. And I want your cheeks to be sore because you've been laughing so much at the studio, because I want it to be that much fun. I've been in studios before where it's like, I need to go smoke a cigarette. I'm so stressed out. And I've literally been in studios where I've had to step out and like breathe outside, gather myself, and walk back in and like track the song. And that is a no here. Like, I don't want that to happen. In order to like sit down and be like, hey man, what's going on? Like, let's figure it out. We can do it. And so I just want to have fun and make really great music and go to really good shows and just have a good time and be able to pay my bills in the process. I don't care about making hundreds of thousands of dollars. So at the end of the day, I want to be happy. I want everyone that comes in contact with me to be happy, and I want to make great music. That's it.